So my name is Joshua Marquez, and I am a composer and an improviser and a sound artist working in anything relating to sounds. I like to explore the tone-noise spectrum and what kind of exists in between. And so working at Rare provided a great opportunity to take objects and noises and sounds that were commonly, shall we say, like discarded, and turn them into something that we can like recontextualize and maybe appreciate in new ways. As a sound practitioner, I like to say that my music exists in this liminal space because that's where I exist as a Filipino American, as a young person of color, existing in the United States, right? Where it's tough to exist where I don't quite feel Filipino enough to exist in some of those practices, yet I'm too Filipino to exist in other practices. So I feel almost discarded myself. I feel almost as though a lot of what I have to say and provide or produce or the sounds that I make are kind of noisy. So taking these discarded things and making something out of them is really expressive to me because it's very personal to me. Rare is this great place where art can happen in so many different ways. And although there's an openness to it, it forces you to use the materials found there. For me as a sound artist, some of the materials, some of the sounds are great, but some of them are just things we would filter out, things we would try to avoid, right? The sounds of machinery, the sounds of garbage, trash, things like that being dumped somewhere. Things that are heard as maybe like annoying or disruptive, the question became, how can I turn that into something? I really wanted to explore the neglected. So this gong Billy found one day from the yard, and he thought, this probably sounds really great. I don't know why somebody threw it away. It's more of a I couldn't find anything about it, but it seems more like a decorative gong than an actual functioning gong. So I thought, well, we can just beat this thing up because who cares? Like, it's already in the trash. I'm gonna turn it into something. So what I did was I took recordings of the gong being bowed. I was able to harmonize with it and turn it into things. And that was really the end-all be-all. I thought, okay, I'm done with the gong. It can return to the tipping floor and to the trash heap. But Billy saved it. And so I thought, why don't I turn this into a speaker? And so this was my first prototype, is I glued some of these sound exciters onto it. And then I played some recordings through the sound exciters. The idea of recycling kept coming through my head. I kept thinking, how can I recycle this? So I take the recording, play it through an object, record that playback, and then continuously cycle through until it becomes disintegrated or degraded or recycled, you know, if you want to look at it in a positive light. But in my ear, you're losing some of that fidelity with each pass, with each recycling. So it becomes what we may say like warmer. It becomes more nebulous and more ambient as you go along. And so I can harmonize with those as source recordings and pitch those up and make harmonies out of that. But the only way I can do that is to take the sound of a truck dumping something on the tipping floor and re-recording and re-recording and re-recording. So if you can imagine a truck backing up into the tipping yard and tipping, what we hear with our normal hearing is probably the rumble of the engine and maybe the crunch of the dirt and the ground underneath the tires and maybe the squeak and the dumping. But when you remove all of that through this analog filtering, right, because it's happening through a physical object, you get to hear all of these rich, beautiful overtones that sing, and they just like reverberate well beyond things. And so the first time I played any sound through this, it was physically just shaking back and forth because the sound was so immense. And capturing that and filtering and playing it back and playing it back and playing it back, you start to reinforce things and it becomes a very focused thing. It's like using an Instagram filter 50 times over until it becomes something something completely different from the source, yet it's still beautiful in its own way. Each sound, each object, each noise that we hear is very unique. And combining those noises, sounds, people, voices, instruments, creates something really special. And it's kind of blending colors. It's like taking yellow and blue and making green, you know, but it's different hues of that. It's different shades. It's different kind of complexities with that. And that's what I like to do, is take an instrument and go, okay, that's a cello. But how do we make it sound kind of like a cello, but not like a traditional cello? How do we push it further? How do we extend it? Maybe that's performing in an unconventional way, or augmenting or altering or almost destroying the instrument, right? This gong is meant to be struck, maybe bowed, but what if we turn it into a speaker within itself? It doesn't sound great in terms of, like, empirically, you know, but it does sound great objectively, or subjectively. And you can keep filtering it until it sounds the way you want it to sound.